Welcome to the lost. Welcome to the Leftovers.
Good night.
Rewatch, the long anticipated. Almost said lost again. Leftover rewatch. We had planned this about a year ago, didn't we? It was about a year ago.
Could have been a year. Could have been 2 years. Who knows?
Ethan's been talking about it for a while.
Yeah. But I said, as soon as I'm finished with Lost, we can do the Leftovers, and we have all four of us are here, and I'm still not lost in my head. So let's introduce ourselves. Caleb, you want to start?
My name is Caleb. I was on a lot of the Lost rewatch episodes. You can find me at Caleb is Lost. I'm a writer, and I love film. I have a degree in film, and I love shows about Damon Lindelof. So that's
Ethan.
me.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Ethan. I was on a couple Lost rewatches, and I did the Westworld after show for season 3 with Eckhart and Jack, and I'm very stoked to be here. This is my favorite show ever.
Wow. And Eckhart.
Yeah, hi, I'm Eckhart. As Ethan mentioned, we did the Westworld after show cast with Jack. Did a few Lost recap shows too. Have been a longtime fan of the Jay and Jack podcasts, and Leftovers is definitely among my favorite shows. So I'm excited to discuss the show.
And I'm Dusty Bob. What I'm going to try and do, because at my shtick during the Lost days was to do a different name from the show. I was never Jack. I was just always, and Dusty Bob clicked. I said, they mentioned Dusty Bob when they're at Wayne's Ranch. I think that's where I got it from. I go, that's who I'm going to, so each week, that's going to be my contribute. That's what I'm going to contribute to the show. Just a different name every week. And the rest will be fun.
And I just want to say, because Ro is here, and that's Ro, I assume, from the Jane Jack Facebook forums.
I would think so.
Yeah. Just want to say, to get people to watch this, I really Matthew Santos this out with the politics. I went to dumpsters. I helped people with their trash. You know, I did everything Matt Santos did at the early beginning of retail politics to get people to join this rewatch. So I'm very excited.
Nice. And we got Josh coming our way too. He's going to help out, right?
No.
Okay.
Not lineman.
Not Josh Lyman's not going to help.
No.
Well, what we're going to do, we're going to probably do as quick a recap as we can. And when you guys have something you want to add to it, or in the chat you want to add to how we're going, you can jump in and just say, hey, I got something I want to add there. I just want to say before we get going, because I haven't watched the pilot episode probably since the first season, and probably since we podcast on it. Jay and I, when we podcast on it, that was what, 5? How long ago did this pilot come out? It's been a while. So it was like a new episode. 2014. So almost 7 years. So it was like a new episode for me. And what I was noticing in the beginning as I go, they really took a chance in the beginning, because usually when you have a show like Lost did a great job of having an ensemble cast and giving you so many characters, this one really throws character, like the first 5 minutes, you're getting different character, and you have no idea how they intertwine, because, you know, you see Jill, you see Tommy, you see Chief Garvey, you see all these different people, and you don't know that they're all, you know, they're one. So I got to say right off the bat, hats off to the writing team for being bold. I think it was a bold move to just go out there and go boom, because usually shows do that. Because a lot of ensemble shows don't make it because you get so, like, Flash Forward. I'll go to Flash Forward because they made the characters so boring the first half of the first season. You were like going, oh, I don't care about these people. Right away, I cared about these people. And it all came back to me. I was like, yeah, I cared about it. They just did a fantastic job. But there was also, because you got F.U. Laurie, and spoiler, and you're like going, well, who's she? Well, wait, she's married to the chief, but now she's in the GRs. What's going? How did she end up there? What's going on? So I just thought it was a fantastic first episode. And I just wanted to get that out of the way.
I think it's important to set up where the show is coming from. Like Damon Lindelof had done Lost, and then he left to go do some movies that were either good or not, depending on who you ask. My wife has watched Prometheus like 10 times in the past 2 months, so she loves, his movie work. And then he came back to do this show, and he comes out right away saying that, there's a central mystery. All these people disappear, but we're not going to tell you the answer to that. And I think that's an important piece of information to go in. And as far as the pilot goes, I really enjoyed the pilot from the first time I watched it, especially at the end when he starts shooting the dogs. I'm like, this is my kind of show. Let's go.
Spoken like a cat person.
Yeah.
Well, we start off, and it's probably the most annoying scene. The baby's crying nonstop. You have the woman in the laundromat, and she goes outside, and I said this on I remember saying this on the podcast 7 years ago. She puts the baby in the back seat, but the window is down. Now, was she really going to drive away with the window down and a baby in the back seat? I just don't think that's the safest thing. You can argue with me saying I'm being nitpicky here. No.
Yeah, but she was also in such a frazzled state of mind.
Yeah, but you're still a parent. You still have to safety first.
Of course you do, but I mean, you think about just all the stuff that she's dealing with, like bill collectors and stuff like that, right?
Hey, I'm just saying, I've had issues in life and always rolled up the windows. In fact, of course, I have a lock on mine, and they can't open them.
Well, I think that she probably, once she got off the phone, she would have probably, I don't even know if the car was cranked. So probably once she got off the phone, she could have rolled them up.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to revisit that complaint.
We'll go ahead and let that mystery be.
What's amazing about that scene, though,
I know it's an unanswered question.
Well, I think the let the mystery be thing is interesting because we should really say before we really get into it about the spoiler situation and what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a recap where we're really going to try not to spoil things.
Right.
And then later on, we're going to go full on, talking up to the end of the series, I hope.
Yeah.
And some ramifications. So I thought we should get that out there.
But what I just wanted to add on that scene is that what they do fantastic with that, right up until the moment where the event happens, is they make it purposely noisy. Like you hear like 3 or 4 different phone calls. She's in a noisy place. And then all of a sudden there's just the silence, right? And throughout the episode, you see this interplay between, sound and silence. And I was just thinking about it now, how it really shows like up until that moment, there was like life was very noisy. And then things are about to change big time.
Well, you have her, and then all of a sudden she goes, Sam, and then of course he looked. They get the baby. It was actually a great job by the baby, and I don't know how they probably got something for it to stare at. But the baby, Sam, stares at something, and then they pan back to the mom, and he's vanished. He's one of the 140 million that have vanished, and I thought that was just an amazing scene, also, because again, the baby sees something.
Yeah.
Right.
And it goes back to crying. But there is almost like a George Clooney seeing the water at the perfect storm moment. The sun, the baby gets really quiet, and it looks like it sees something, but then it starts crying again.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just an amazing shot. But then you have chaos. You have everything's going crazy. You have the poor kid that's screaming, "Where's his dad? Where's his dad?" And the shopping cart hits the car, and nobody cares about the kid because they're all coming to the mom because she's saying, "Where's my baby? Where's my baby?" And the kid's just, "Dad, Dad, Dad," and it's just, and you're like going, because I can remember you're watching it going, "What the heck is going on here?"
And when they close out, all you get is the audio of the police channels and everything.
Right, the 911 calls.
Yeah, for a while. And then bam, just like Endgame 3 years later.
Yeah, 3 years later, and you're like going, okay. And then you have probably the most famous scene from Leftovers, Kevin Garvey running in his gray sweatpants.
Yes.
which I personally used to own a pair of gray sweatpants. I refuse to wear them now because I just can't do it justice. So,
And let's be clear, it's really not worth talking about if it doesn't come up, maybe a spoiler, later on, which it does.
Yeah, it does.
This is not the first time.
But then he sees the dog.
Yep. He
stops, and then some dude shoots the dog. And it's still at this point, we don't know what's going on. We don't know. Mm-hmm. We know that life has changed, but it's 3 years later. They haven't really explained what's going on yet.
And what makes all this so unsettling is that you can see all this is taking place like in a suburb or a small town.
Right.
So that make it seem like they juxtapose these events with the place that's supposed to be as boring as possible.
And they make that guy who shoots the dog look just like Jack.
Of course. Bald people are always the most violent and angry people in the world. But the dog was shot on Lincoln Street. Coincidence? I didn't notice that the first time around, but I said, oh, it's on Lincoln Street.
No, if the dog was seeing a play, that'd be a coincidence.
Yeah. Well, he was on his way to Ford's Theater, I think. But then you go to a woman sleeping on the floor, women sleeping on the floor, and I'm like going, well, who are these people? Mm-hmm. And you're like going, okay, they're all in white. They're sleeping. One woman gets up. She's all happy to be smoking a cigarette. So that's why I said in the beginning how they're just throwing all these different characters at us, but we're into what's happening because even though we don't know what's happening, right?
Right. It's a bunch of different storylines that will eventually, converge. But the introductions are all kind of scattered like that.
But once you see the whole show, you see what a masterclass in world building it is. Especially,
it's amazing. It just, but again,
in the beginning, you're supposed to feel this way,
Yeah, but how many? Again, I'm saying, how many shows, if they were to start off this way, would you care about? They'd be like, what are they doing here? I don't know, but maybe because it was Lindelof, and we were Lost fans, we wanted to. Okay, we're going to stick with this because it's Lindelof. Then the kids are. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's also worth noting that this started out as a book. And so the first season is primarily the book only. They went based on the book, kind of. Obviously, there were creative, things added, taken away, things like that. But just in case anybody sees some type of disconnect between the first season compared to the others.
Yeah, and also I'll say ahead of time too, a lot of people don't like the first season. A lot of people make a big mistake by quitting the first season and not watching the second, third season. Because I like the first season, but the second, third season, it's just brilliant. It's just perfect. It's perfect television. Not that the first season's not, but season 2 and 3 are just like, oh my God, they're just amazing, amazing television. Then we had the kids in school, so we're just seeing different characters there. And they don't stand for the national anthem. They just sit down and do the whole thing. Then we see a guy gets into a van and gives some dude some cash.
Well, wait, hold on a second. I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. To go back.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
To go back to the world building, you said we see the kids in school not standing for the pledge, but then they also have a whole separate section where those who want to can pray.
Pray, yeah. And there's a cat.
That's the machine. Florence is around here somewhere. So kids are praying if they want to, and I really like my favorite thing. We have Margaret Qualley, who is Andy McDowell's daughter, if anyone doesn't know. She likes this kid, and he does the shooting to the head, and she takes it to the next level and does the whole noose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't understand why was he so put off by that? He takes a gun and blows his brains out. She hangs herself, and he's like, you're crossed the line.
I think because she, like Ethan said, kind of went overboard with it. I think he was just trying to be like, and then she was like had all these like loops around, and then does this, and I think that it was just sort of like a overcompensating type thing, and he's obviously popular, and And I think this scene really establishes a lot about Jill's character.
She's in pain. She's definitely suffering.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, so the event is, all these people disappear. We know, and so once something like that happens, you're thinking, well, what does anything else matter? This unexplainable thing. You have people of religions that are like, oh, I got it wrong because this wasn't the rapture, or maybe it was, and then you have religions fighting people who don't have a religion or like, whatever. And I think Jill is in that category of like a non-believer, an atheist or something. And I think that with people not standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, I kind of found that similar to today, where that's kind of a lot of how America feels right now. We're kind of so let down and so disappointed and can't explain a lot of things that it's like the Pledge of Allegiance. There's more things to worry about than that, like why are we going on about our day to day over the intercom when this huge inexplicable thing happened? And this is just 3 years later too. But people are still doing this.
But at this point, do we know the severity of people? We know the bait. We know Sam disappeared. We know some other people disappeared. But at this point, we don't know that there's 140 million people that disappeared. We don't know that 2% of the population of the world disappeared. We don't know.
I think we do know that. I think all those news stories and those Senate hearings in the background paint a pretty clear picture of what's going on all over the world.
That had already happened.
And it's not just the people disappearing. In her case, it's her mother joining the guilty remnant. So that you have.
Yeah, but we don't know that's her mom though yet.
That's kind of a big reveal at the end.
But we're just talking about how her gestalt in class. You get the sense that there's something that she's suffering, and that, I mean, we know that there's not just people that left Earth, but that this somehow splintered society, right?
Right.
And that you had some people that went towards more religious answers and some people that went towards hopeless. But the point is, and it's what Caleb said, it's that this massive event had these massive ramifications on society, and they're still not sure how to deal with it. And I mean, that is obviously one of the main themes of the entire series.
Right. Why am I still here? Why did they take that person? Because I think they do a good job in the bar scene where they're showing all the, 3 years later, who, the Pope. We'll get to that when we get there. But we get to the guy that gets in the van and gives the young man, an envelope of cash, and he's going to see Wayne. And we don't know who Wayne is. We have no idea who Wayne is, right? At this point, no, we don't. Yeah. But then the next I wrote down is the 2%. Then we find out 2% of the world's population has disappeared, around 140 million. That's when we find out that.
Okay.
So I'm just going by what I wrote down. I could be wrong. Maybe I wrote it down backwards, but.
They play Patsy Cline in the car.
Is that from Lost?
Yeah. Well, this is
a little Lost Easter egg.
Well, the Peter Berg Easter egg is he directed the episode and he directed the movie Friday Night Lights.
Right.
He Buddy Garrity's kind of like a lucky rabbit's foot for that guy. I think he cast him in a lot of things he does.
So Tommy gets, the congressman guy. Is that where we're at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that upon rewatch, he looked very similar to Ted Cruz. And in my notes, I put, but that would require Cruz to care enough about people to have pain that needed to be taken away.
Yep.
Which would never happen. So,
but I like this. I like to think of him as Buddy Garrity.
He's in this whole show for so short amount of time, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, he's always going to be Buddy Garrity to me, even though he's in a lot of shit. He's like you mentioned, he's in a lot of stuff. But then we go back to the people in the white, all dressed in white. They're not talking, but smoking. And there was a sign in the back said smoking. We smoke for. I forgot to write it down. Anybody write it down? There's a sign in the back about why they smoke.
No.
It's like we smoke to remember or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
We smoke to get emphysema.
But Justin Theroux is hot.
I think we can all agree on that one.
The tattoos are really cool.
So we should
I'm like, my notes.
We should talk about this middle-aged, skinny white guy who has short cropped dark hair that has tattoos all over the place. And maybe, just maybe, Damon Lindelof should try to maybe cast Regina King in his next show or something. So the lead isn't like basically an interchangeable dude with Jack Shepherd. On some level, I think Justin Theroux is better, but they are kind of.
We get Regina. Let me. I'll stop.
Yeah.
But I think he works in events. Well, I can't say anything because that would be spoilers. So I got to keep quiet. I like how Kevin Garvey takes the dog, or takes the collar. He has the dog in his trunk to the woman that owns the dog or owned the dog, and he goes, "Well, he went away 3 years ago. What do I care?" You know, aren't you? And she goes, "Aren't you the one that went crazy?" He goes, "Oh no, that's my dad."
And you get that shot of Kevin Jr. running crazy.
Yeah.
Which is startling as heck.
By the way, in the original podcast, Jack spent like 2 minutes talking about how the actress who played this random woman was on Orange Is the New Black.
She is, yes. Whole time I'm watching this going, what show was she in? I couldn't remember it at the time.
I did want to note that Kevin tries to find the dog's owner, and I feel like that's because he knows what it's like for someone to go missing and to not know where they are. So even 3 years later, he's willing to go to somebody out of his way and be like, here's your dog, they died. And as you see after the event, people are in different frames of mind. So here is Kevin thinking that he's doing, like this lady a favor, and she's like, what do I care? But I think it says a lot about his character kind of right off the bat.
Right. And he also sees a deer when he walks up, a buck.
Isn't that a fake deer, or do you think it's supposed to represent a real deer?
I don't know, because when he walks, what is there really a deer there at all? Because when he walks back, it's not there.
No.
So these scenes are fascinating for me to see them again after having watched the whole thing, and also at this stage in life, because when we first watch it, we're all focused on the deer, but now that we know the bigger story and we listen closer to the dialogue, to me the importance of this entire scene was something that Caleb touched on, both on this scene and the classroom scene, was just like the fragmentation of society, right? The fact that she just like this woman seems so, cynical isn't the right term. It just seemed detached, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that is the tone that the entire first episode is trying to send. Just this kind of vagueness that permeates society, even 3 years after the event.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's the problem a lot of people had with season 1, though, is that it's so much. Spoiler, but there's so much of that that a lot of people didn't want to stay for the payoff because
it's heavy. It's heavy.
Yeah, it's depressing. I don't want to be depressed, but if you stick with it, you are rewarded. Keep saying it. But I do like that Garvey was up. He thought the meeting was at noon, and my question is, was he given the wrong time by the mayor's office on purpose? Because she knew that he was going to fight with the mayor. The mayor goes, I don't want to deal with Garvey, so let's give him the wrong time so he doesn't show up and disrupt the meeting.
Yeah, I thought that was implied that they, didn't tell him on purpose.
Yeah,
I got a lot to say about this stuff after we go through the recap.
Well, you can say it now.
No,
I thought that's what we were doing.
Okay. So they're going to do Heroes Day, and they're worried about. Well, he's worried about the guilty, the GR showing up, and you want to take this, Caleb?
Okay. So the scene I did want to ask y'all, the scene where Lori goes, we don't know her name yet. We don't even know who she is yet. But she goes to Patty, who we also don't know who she is yet. And she leaves her bowl of oatmeal on her desk and walks away. And Patty snaps at her and points like, "You left that on my desk." Is there any significance to that? Any significance to that other than the fact of like they might be kind of trying to tell the audience that Lori is still not fully in here, that she's still not, she's still like she's slipping up with the rules, even just on a small scale, maybe.
That's a great point. I didn't think about it. I thought it was just like, don't waste your food. Don't waste our food.
Okay. I was like, maybe they're trying
but
to
but I like your analogy better. I think I like that better.
Like she's not completely conforming.
It looks like Little Lisa slurry that they were eating. Not Simpsons fans? All right.
Okay.
I also immigration rule.
Oh. I also interpreted that scene as to show like just the dynamics between those two.
Yeah.
In terms of like just the power structure.
Like Patty's, she's saying that she's in charge. You have to do it my way, kind of like what Caleb was.
Yeah, a certain amount of authoritarian nature to it.
Right. Okay. She's the leader. Lori has to ask, things like that. So you are kind of starting to get cult vibes. But the scene I think that we wanted to discuss was the scene where Kevin and the mayor, they call him and he is late to the meeting and he shows up and all that. And he's talking about the GR and how they show up places and they shouldn't. And the mayor says, well, that was just, on the football field or whatever. And she was like, they went on and they went off. It was a peaceful protest. And then Kevin continues, kind of arguing with her. And he goes, well, what if we get provoked? And she just looks at him, and gets really stern and says, then don't get provoked. And for me, that really hit hard with everything that America has been going through, especially with like police brutality and things like that. And I thought that it was kind of sloppy on Kevin's part to be like, whatever, like planning for that. Whereas the mayor was kind of like, don't let them bother you. And it's hard to talk about without spoiling the episode, but
you can spoil the episode.
Kevin's wife, because she is a member of this, he's emotionally invested in it more so than he should be. He's angry at them for taking his wife away. So I feel like there's a little bit of revenge there, but I feel like the mayor is completely in the right and is like, then don't get provoked, because that should be the job.
Well, wait a second.
For them to like not.
Hold on a second. But Kevin is right in the end, because they do in fact provoke violence with the townspeople that take it out on them. So Kevin was 100% right. Did in fact provoke violence at the parade.
I think what I'm gonna go different. I'm gonna go different from I think than both of you. I think what Kevin was doing, he realized the town people were going to be so wound up. I think that the mayor, she's being political. She's right that you have to, if they're just being there quiet, you just let them stand there, ignore them. But I think what Garvey was worried about was his wife is part of the remnant. He was worried about her being harmed, but he was also worried that how they only have like 6 or 7 of them. How are they going to control a whole group of townspeople? Which happened. They go after him and start beating him. And the mayor is being political. She's what most politicians are. Again, she was right at what she said to Garvey, but was she wrong to have this thing, knowing that they might show up? And is this the right thing? We're going to honor them as heroes. We're going to do this. Because there's a guy going around. We know who he is now, but we didn't know who he was at the time. telling, is this person, this guy was this person was this guy beat his wife, and is he really a good person? So you could see tensions were high. And when you only have so many people, how are you going to defend against the mob? Again, the Remnants wasn't doing anything, but we can see how they act when, they're going around that one person who eventually joins the Remnant at the end, following in front of their house, doing this. I mean, eventually you're going to snap because everything is so stressed out, and these people are in a way provoking because they're like a 2-year-old who keeps just bucking you. Anyway, that's what I think. But what do you think, Eckhart?
Well, I mean, you mentioned something that was interesting. There's a big contrast between somebody whose name isn't mentioned yet, who goes and screams at the top of his lungs that this person was a sinner, and this group of people who just show up, just don't say anything, and just hold up a placard that says, "Don't waste your breath," or "Stop wasting your breath," right? And so it's fascinating for me because, I mean, in retrospect, maybe this entire scene didn't make as much sense as the first or second time I watched it, in the sense that if they knew that there's this cult in the city that occupies 3 houses in a cul-de-sac, right, and has roughly 60 members, and they're extreme, you would request additional police force from neighboring towns to support, right? That there should have been some sort of a barricade that would have been set up between the two groups, right? That there wouldn't have been, that the townspeople would have never been able to actually lay a hands on the protesters. And that's basically how things usually are organized, right? Especially if known events.
Yeah.
So that obviously in the show or the book, this was meant to be some sort of a scripted event, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like they didn't provoke anybody. I think their actions were like really horrendous. It's like the Westboro Church picketing a gay person's funeral.
Well, the problem with that, but they actually say stuff.
Oh, the Westboro Church. Yeah. They're like yelling horrible things, which would be like even more of a reason to like be provoked compared to like the guilty remnant that's just standing there holding up signs. It's the most disrespectful thing in the world, but that doesn't give the police free rein to just go beat them up. But Kevin was right in regards to that the townspeople, like you said, are going to be so riled up after everything that's happening, which also, now that I'm realizing, it doesn't really make a lot of sense why they wouldn't have gotten help from other cities. So I wonder if this was a little, I don't want to use the word sloppy, but the writing could have been a little better to, like you said, with barriers and things
can
like that.
Can a small town afford to have other cops come in because they're going to have to pay for them?
And what if other small towns are having their same issues with the same kind of thing?
Right, because the cults are kind of popping up everywhere.
That's where I go to with the mayor. You're trying to have something where, but tensions are going to be high. This is the first time in 3 years they've done something to try and honor the people that, and that group's going to show up and just going to piss people off.
So do you just not do it though? Because that's what Kevin was wanting.
If you don't have the I shouldn't say manpower. If you don't have the power, you don't have a strong enough police force presence, then I would say the mayor should have been smart enough to say, no, we're not going to do that because we can't protect the citizens. That's the job of the mayor. Number one is to protect the citizens. And it was just going to be, and when we get, I'll get to more of what happened that when we get there. But I just think that if she did purposely keep Kevin away, well, how's Kevin going to do his job because you don't want to fight with him, and you don't want him being negative and maybe convincing people not to do it. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm blaming the mayor.
So basically, Jack, you're saying your crackpot theory now, if you had watched this the first time around this time, would be that the mayor was setting Kevin Garvey Jr. up to get fired. Basically, that was your crackpot theory.
Sure. Yeah. Well, she obviously doesn't like him, right? Or she doesn't. It seems like we don't. There's some friction there.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to. She's the mayor, and like a lot of politicians, they don't like to be questioned. Am I right?
You're right.
Because most people that run for political office have tremendous egos, and they don't like to be corrected.
But I want to say one thing. I mean, this is where, and again, I'll echo what Caleb said about that the writing wasn't very tight here. If you're a politician, right, and you kind of have a sense of like PR, you know that the PR of like your big event being crashed by a local cult would be horrendous for your political career if it wasn't handled properly, right? So that there either it's a character flaw that she has, or the writing wasn't good for the scene, in the sense that like a good politician, like an ambitious politician, would think about this risk and figure out some way to handle it better.
I think,
unless she was a closet GR.
Oh, not theory. I think the mayor doesn't. I think she's seen no signs of violence within the GR. So based on that, that's what she's going based off of. Because when she gets there, the mayor specifically sees like somebody in a clown outfit, and she's like, "No clowns! Like, why are they here?" You know. So she knew enough about the event to be like, "What's appropriate and not appropriate." But she also knew, okay, they've done peaceful protest. Kevin has this super like investment. Obviously, I think she's too focused on Kevin's focus on the GR that she's not thinking ahead as well. And then also there's the connection of, you know, his father later on and all that. But
Okay, well we'll get back to that when we get there. We see Jill playing field hockey. She gets tripped up, which is a normal move in hockey. You got to be good at it. But then she gives a forearm. She gives an elbow to the face of the girl.
Yeah.
And then you have the whole thing afterwards. And how many people? I'm going to tell you right now. I think that the person that tripped got what they deserved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I played hockey for a number of years, and if you do something like that, because tripping can, people think, oh, it's just a trip. It can be dangerous, and if you do that, I'm going to get in there and do something back to you. It's just payback. And I like the fact she didn't. She was very honest when she said I'm not going to say the word, but she was very honest of how she felt.
Oh, I'll say it.
Yeah.
She said it 3 times in the space of a couple minutes, and I think she added an extra O in there. Didn't
Tommy, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, when Kevin went up to the, lady with the dog, he said, "I'm sorry for your loss," because she said, "My husband's not been here for 3 years also." And then she said, "Is that what it is?" And I thought that was really important, because that goes ahead and lets the viewer be like, why does she not consider it a loss? So even 3 years later, people are still not knowing what to call it. And you see this in the bar, on the TV, and in the news, and on the radio, and all that. And I think when you have Jill lashing out like that, that's like a small version of what's going on in the whole world. Everybody's rules are broken. Nobody knows what the rules are anymore, from religion to politics. They're holding this hearing, on the TV, and it's like, so you're telling me you don't know what happened? So there's a lot of like, the Pledge of Allegiance doesn't matter anymore. The rules of hockey doesn't matter anymore. So I feel like that was a small version of what the show's really gonna be. Onion peeling.
Right. Yeah. I thought you were going to say something. We have the congressman Tommy brings the congressman to the ranch because he has to be blindfolded, all that fun stuff. They have a great conversation on that. And the congressman is going to meet with Wayne.
Is this where we get a shot of what Tommy saw at college?
It was before. It's in my notes before that, but yeah.
Go ahead.
I just think it's important to mention he witnessed a double suicide, and that was like the closest you can get to. I mean, the show is kind of written as a 9/11 parable, and that's kind of like literally the worst image from those 9/11 tapes that I can think of are those people holding their hands as they jumped.
Yeah.
And you see that, and Tom, you saw that. They make it clear in the book what exactly he saw, but they get a couple of shots of Tommy in this show that are just amazing, and this is like one of them. It's so shocking.
We also start finding out who these people are and how we find out that Tommy is Garvey's son because he's calling. He just want to hear your voice, son. I just want to hear your voice. Of course, he doesn't pick it up, and we find out the woman, Lori, is Garvey's wife because he punches the going up the stairs. He punches the picture frame. And there's Lori's face that he's punching. So,
but it's only for a split second. It's like blink and you miss it.
Yeah,
the big reveal kind of comes at the end.
I mean, I knew it because I've seen it.
Well,
but,
yeah. But I also wanted to mention that in that. Sorry, going back to this, in that scene with the mayor and Kevin in the office at the meeting, somebody says, she says, the special speaker at Departure Day is Nora Durst, and then somebody says, why is she getting to talk? And the mayor says, Nora lost her entire family, she can say whatever the F she wants. And I was like, yes. And I think that's really important moving forward because I'm a Nora stan, and so I think she can say and do whatever the F she wants.
But if you're Nora, do you want to get up there and talk about it?
Nope.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, I don't
think I would. Be honest with you, I don't even think I'd be living in that same town anymore. It would be too painful, unless you think they're somehow going to come back. But I just think it would be far too painful.
Staying because.
Well, I'm just saying at this point because we don't know what kind of character she's going to be to the show, right? So it's like, God, if I was her, no way am I speaking, and no, I'm not even here anymore. I'm going somewhere else and trying. I mean, obviously, there's something that's again going to the guilty ribnets when they show up. I mean, they're just provoking people to want to beat the crap out of them because people are angry, people are frustrated. There's, like you said at the Senate hearings, nobody has an answer to what happened. Nobody knows what happened. It's just one of those things. We got the twins. We finally get to the twins, and they want to play ping pong, which was code for ping pong.
Yeah, I like the twins. I like the twins.
I think I said at the time they were useless, and we should get rid of them.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
The twins.
I didn't.
No. Jack kept obsessing about the fact that like the twins were something more than they were. Like he kept saying, "There's something about these guys we need to watch out." And this is where Jack's like lost watching habits really slipped up. Like he assumed there was something like nefarious or hidden about them. Well,
shouldn't there have been? Shouldn't have been. They seem to show up at all the convenient times. They're not welcome to the party. Anyway, then we find out at family dinner. Oh wait, we find out the congressman his burdens. He's met Wayne. He's seen Wayne. He feels better. The lady tells Tommy, Wayne wants to see you later on. Get some sleep in the bunkhouse. And what does she want? What does she want? What does he want? What does he want? He'll tell you when he sees you.
Gail in the comments says Nora was the only reason I kept watching, and Nora's a great character. That's awesome.
Spoiler alert. Gail, spoiler alert. People don't know that she's in there. Come on, Gail. What are you doing? Anyway.
Well, she may have kept watching for the first season, and that'd been all. We don't know.
Well, we don't know if she's in the second episode, do we?
Gail, you're fine.
Okay. Are we at dinner time yet?
Yeah, that's where we find out that Jill is Garvey's daughter.
Okay, there's something I want to do on this show here, and I might.
God.
It might be annoying. I need to do a Sopranos moment if I find one every episode, and I found one.
Okay.
Episode when he's making the meatloaf, the song preparing is Our Lover's Prayer by Otis Redding. First time I ever heard that song was in the episode of The Sopranos where Chris was shot and had to recover, called From Where to Eternity. That was like the main theme song.
Oh, spoiler on that one too. Sorry.
For a song in The Sopranos?
I've
No,
never seen it,
Chris
so-
getting shot.
but that's okay.
Okay, it's only 20 years old. I think you should ever. Anyway, but if I find, because I know that Damon Lindelof said there's lots of Sopranos things and direct lines from that particular show.
Okay.
And this is one of them. And Otis Redding comes back to play in the future too.
Yes. Yes.
That's all I want to say about that.
Okay, all right. Family dinners. It was kind of like Jill's just kind of. She's just not happy, right?
Well, the kids are high and Dad's drunk.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And because she says I don't drink, which is she didn't say she smoked pot, but she just said I don't drink. And he goes, the parents are going to be there. Of course, we know parents aren't going to be there, right? At this party.
I mean, cool parents were at that party. The party was
Now,
changed.
now at the party, are we there yet? Yeah, at the party. Oh, I forgot that the GR people, the two people, and one is one is Lori, are standing out in front of the woman's house as she comes out with her fiance, and she's just looking at him. And it just, to me, again, I don't know how they don't get run over. Just like, oops.
Spoiler alert.
No, it wasn't. Now, every single time I watch a show, I look up this guy who's Meg's fiance.
Yeah.
See if he is the guy from Lost who didn't want to take care of Jack's wife when she was hurt. I always think it's that dude that was like, I'm going to have to help her go to the bathroom. I always think it's that guy.
Oh, gosh. What a similar,
I always look it up, and it's never the same guy.
Yeah.
Well, this guy's a little nicer. It's not his fault that.
I know he's like the same kind of dude.
I think also Liv Tyler is amazing just in general, and I think she kills it in her role as well.
Oh, yeah, she's fantastic.
And I feel the same way about Liv Tyler that you and Ro feel about Justin Theroux. So I'm excited about it.
Oh.
I'd love to see her running in some sweatpants, some gray sweatpants. That'd be good. I was going to say at the party, when she says the parents are going to be there, could the parents have been part of The Departed?
No.
And there's no parents there because there's at the house.
Amy's parents departed.
Yeah.
Or the parents realize that nothing matters and let the kids do whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty raging party. I mean, it was pretty one of those things where you're going to have a hard time covering up that there was a party there.
There's sex, drugs,
The way that you know that the parents aren't departed is in a few scenes later when they go into the little sister's room, which is well taken, like maintained, right? If the parents were departed, that thing would have been just used for something.
And now,
else.
Eckhart, in detail, what happened in that room exactly?
You're gonna have to ask Jack.
I literally forgot all about this party. I forgot what was going on at the party. I was like, "Oh, that's right. This party gets a little because it's spin the iPhone because technology today. We had a little bottle when I was a kid, but you spin the iPhone and it has different things you have to do with the thing. And what's the kid's name? Nick. Who's the cool kid? Nick. That's
from the classroom earlier.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
it's Nick. But the other guy who she ends up with the hat and the curly hair, even before I saw that scene the first time, I said, this must be the Jay Glatfelter character of the show.
But like I said, I forgot all about that. It was an interesting scene, and she chokes him as he's
something.
Something. And then, but anyway, I thought it was an interesting scene to be.
The shiftiness of the morals of everybody is so crazy because even just on a friend level, Amy and Jill are obviously friends. Why would she do that? Whether the bottle lands or not, is the peer pressure so great to do what you say on the Spin the Phone app that you're going to sleep with your?
Well, I think they show that because the guy gets burned with a fork.
Yeah,
I mean, who's going to go through with that? You're not burning me with a fork. What is that?
Yeah.
By the way, burning me with a hot fork, I should say.
By the way, there
It's
was
called foreplay, duh.
Jack. In some ways, that entire scene of the party and what you're talking about in terms of all this experimentation really reminded me of in Flash Forward how they had the that club that they went to. It was like the Blue Hand Group or something.
Oh
like that,
yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
where it was all these people who went there who basically just kind of gave up because they knew that in their Flash Forward they didn't see anything, or they saw something horrendous, so then they basically
Right.
just decided like that they would just do whatever they wanted to between now and then. So there's a certain amount of symmetry with that.
Right.
Another great thing about the show is that you have, a family where like there's older adults, and then you have, people Jill's age and Tommy's age. So you're seeing how different people at different ages react to this. And then later as it goes along, you realize how, their professions and who they were before the event, how that plays a big role into how they react to the departure.
Rose said Amy is questionable. I want to like her, but she's just as troubled as Jill. I think that's absolutely correct. I think this is a great actress. If anyone wants to watch The Deuce, she's on there for 3 seasons, and she's incredible. And I love it when she's in stuff. But
Okay.
you're right.
Well, at the table scene, she leaves. She's still there, and she tells Kevin, you're doing your best. After Jill leaves the room, and it's
Yeah.
like, why are you having this adult conversation about his daughter and that's your friend? It's a little awkward, like you said. So this episode is showing all the rules: religion, politics, protest. The school, Pledge of Allegiance. Everything is just broke. This party is just wild. Nothing. People were just like, whatever, let's just do whatever. We could disappear too. I mean, that's what people would do.
And that's a great point. They don't know if they're just going to vanish one day. So it's like, no, again, because nobody knows. I think that's what I think, Ethan, you mentioned in the beginning, that they said, we're never going to tell you where they went, how they went, why they went, why the 2% went. And I think that's helps the show even more. Because right off the bat, but then you're also thinking, okay, these characters, they don't know if they're going to just vanish one day.
But I always
Especially
thought
on
that
the anniversary.
I always thought it was more pressure off of me to even think about it. You know what I mean? Like I could really just get into what's going on because the answer didn't matter.
Right. Yeah. Like we were following them along too. Like, even though they were 3 years later, we were still like, oh, what's happening? Why? They're still wondering why,
I do like that the twins and Jill bury the dog.
Oh my gosh. This is
I
like
do
my
like that.
favorite scene.
Yeah.
And the twins are, overall.
I thought they were going to bring the dog to life because they were the twins. But then.
The twins kind of suck, but, they're not bad dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the dialogue is so important in this scene with the dogs.
Yeah.
One of the twins says, the dogs went crazy on the 14th, or the dogs that witnessed it anyway. So if a dog was with you and you departed, the dog goes crazy. If the dog was just, not in the same room with you, it wasn't, crazy. But that's what he kind of explained with the dog situation. So we start kind of get an answer right off the bat a little bit regarding the dog and it being shot at the beginning of the episode. But then he says, dogs are not like us. How we try to reason things out and make sense of nothing that makes sense. They just snap. And I wrote down that we're more like dogs than we would like to admit, because as the series goes along, we've already seen people who've snapped. We're going to see people who will snap. And he also then says, he follows that by saying, the same's going to happen to us. It's just taking longer. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the show. There you go. If you want a sentence that sums up the show, there you go. And it with this rewatch, I was like, God, that one just hit me,
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, no, I'll second that, because I mean, these are the things that you really hone in on when you don't have to try and figure out what the central mystery is, right? That's what makes rewatches so wonderful, right? Is that all the pressure on trying to understand the moving parts is gone, and now you can just listen to some of these vignettes. And I honed in on that as well, because I was thinking about, like, when we first watched it, we thought, the twins, do they know something? It's like, no, the twins are just a plot device to communicate certain concepts that the writers want us
Well,
to.
we know that now.
Spoiler.
Then we have Wayne comes in and talks with Tommy. He's not happy with Tommy, is he? Because he friggin' Christine some gummy worms. And in the new world, that's like marriage, right? That's like you're just that's like bringing a dozen roses, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Because Wayne says you have to stay away. You need to stay away from Christine. Stay away from her. He's like, well, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Wayne's a great actor too, and he's creepy in all the right ways. You know what I mean?
Right.
Something I didn't catch on the first time we watched it, but this time, is that I think one of the implications of the gummy worms is that they're really insinuating that these women that Wayne has there might be underage.
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Yes,
That's a great point. Yeah.
Excellent.
And I think, well, it's like I'm sure the actress wasn't underage, but I think that's what they're implying. And, we'll see how that impacts larger story down the road.
Well, I never thought about that. That's a great point, though, because excellent. You threw me off there.
Do we want to talk about this comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Rose said, I drew a lot of connections to what I've been dealing with during the pandemic. Not personally losing people, fortunately, but being disconcerted and not really getting a handle on the world around me. That is probably a disclaimer we should have said at the beginning. This show is very heavy, revolving around these people that disappear, a massive group. It's about grief, sadness. Like we said, the first season is very difficult sometimes because it is depressing. But it is very hopeful. It's a very hopeful show. So if anybody is out there dealing with grief, I always recommend this show and 6 Feet Under, because I feel like they both, have a great way of healing and giving a little bit of, more information someone might need with their closure.
Yeah, it's a show I always suggest to people. But I make it very clear it's a heavy show, but a show that makes me feel so much joy, which we'll get to. That it's unreal.
It's hard to see the joy right now.
It's hard to see a joy for about 5 more hours. Actually, 6 more hours. It's hard to see some joy, but then it changes.
Well, then we have Kevin having a bad dream, or was it a dream?
Check this out, dude. So he's driving in the car, and he's obviously drunk a little bit, right? And the radio comes on, and
Well, I don't think I'm there yet. I don't think I'm at that part yet.
All right.
He doesn't have his car because Jill never came home.
And now it's the
it's Heroes Day.
Yeah.
Maple Street's Heroes Day parade.
Right.
We're not. You're thinking after the bar scene.
Sorry.
That's all right. But he wakes up. He's having this dream about it. What, a deer? But was it a dream? Because he gets downstairs and he sees Jill didn't come home. That would tick me off.
Wait a second. No, I was in the right spot.
You're in the right spot. He's not in his car because he doesn't have his car.
No, he got his car back after. This is after the parade, right?
No, this is before the parade.
Oh.
He wakes up. He wakes up on the floor, right? But was it a dream? Because
he's late getting to the parade.
No, I am in the right spot. Because wait, he didn't get.
You're not.
No, I'm not in the right spot. I'm wrong. Go on.
You want to debate it again? No. I'm kidding.
I think he had a dream. I think the deer was. I think the deer was actually in the kitchen. It made a mess, and I think that he was dreaming.
Do you think he was a dream? You don't think he witnessed it and just doesn't remember, because that could
That's
be like a
also
trend.
possibly true. Yes.
Because I like how they did it, because it's like, oh, he just had a bad dream. Then he goes downstairs, his kitchen's destroyed, and you go, wait, was it a dream? Did he see it? Did he not see it? I like shows that do that. So it's like, okay, it's up to me to decide what happened. I'm gonna say that he did witness it, and just didn't remember it until he went to bed. And you see all those pills by his nightstand. We know he likes to drink, so you put all that together.
Hold on a second. Yeah, I do want to argue it again.
He doesn't have his car.
Holy Wayne talks to Tom.
Yeah.
Wayne, great actor choice. The great Kevin is driving and listening to the radio where they're talking about Corinthians 15. That happens now.
That's in his dream, right?
In his dream. But he doesn't have his car. Jill has his car.
That's true. So it is a dream, but still what happened in the dream is important. So I don't know.
Go ahead.
Wait,
Okay.
does he have the truck?
Okay,
and
I
the
think
car?
maybe you're right. In his dream, he was driving a car.
It,
That's right, because he gets out of his car. He talks to the deer. He goes,
he sees a hoof.
no.
He sees a hoof. He hits a car. He sees a hoof. Something makes a noise, and then he wakes up on the floor.
Right. He thinks he hit a deer.
Yes. So in that
Yeah.
car, while he's driving, he's listening to a radio.
Okay.
Yep.
I
Okay.
apologize. You are correct.
Okay. And someone says, well, as it says in Corinthians 15, and then the static comes out. But since it's Damon Lindelof and numbers sometimes mean something, I looked up Corinthians 15. So this is a Jewish person looking up Corinthians 15. Okay. And it has to do with the resurrection of the dead. Corinthians 15 says, more than that, we are then found to be false witnesses about God, and for we have testified about God that he raised Christ from the dead, but he did not raise him if in fact the dead are not raised. And I could read the rest, but I won't, because it's Bible stuff. But it's always I think it's always important when they mention a very specific thing to go look up that thing and read it. And I can talk way more about that after the recap.
All right.
Well, it was like Lost when they would mention a book. Everybody would go out and read that book for answers.
But then
No, I eventually got to a point where I said, okay, I'm not falling for your game. I know you're just doing this to distract me from other things.
yeah. But then the next day, yeah. So now you have me confused. I want to rewatch and find out what he was driving.
Well, he was because he hits a deer.
Yeah.
Well, at least it was because it's screaming and crying, but then he wakes up on the floor. But he goes in the. I'm just saying it was. Well, it was a deer, right?
Where was he at before all this happened? Where was the last place Kevin?
He was having dinner with his with Amy and Jill.
Okay, then I'm gonna say him in the car hitting the deer, and then waking up on the floor. All of that was a dream because Jill had the car. That's what I think.
But then what happened to the kitchen?
I think that he had a dream about a deer, and probably brought on by all the loud noise happening in the kitchen. It how things can affect, like when you're sleeping and something happens, then it'll cause like your dream to kind of go.
Yeah,
I think that's what happened.
Or could he? Oh, we'll see. I don't know. Anyway, we're at the parade. Kevin gets there late, and she's like, "Where were you?" He goes, "I was doing the perimeter. Doing blah blah blah." He gives us this thing, and she's seen the clown. You mentioned it earlier, Caleb. We can't have a clown here.
Yeah,
but she, I guess this woman always does the clown thing. I guess
right. Somebody said, but the kids love it.
Yeah, that's her thing. Well, all the kids that loved it have departed, so there's no one there that's going to enjoy it. Then we see Matt, and we don't know what kind of character he's going to be in this show, and he's preaching that a lot of the people that disappeared were not good people,
which is a very shitty thing to do. Just like the guilty remnant is what they're doing with their protest.
And what makes it amazing is that he's basically saying, look, this was not the rapture because this person was a bad person, right?
Right, because he's a Christian and he's trying to make it fit with his interpretation of the Bible.
Exactly.
Well,
And
what if a murder?
shows the schisms even between the different religious groups, right?
Would he
Mhm.
be right? Would he be right though? Say a murderer departed. Charles Manson departed. Would he be honored? Should he be honored in Heroes Day?
So Christians today, I grew up in the Bible Belt.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying from a. I'm saying I'm saying from a normal. I shouldn't say normal. I'm saying from just a person who doesn't. Like I said, I
who
don't
does
follow
horrendous things.
someone who does horrendous things. I don't think I want. If I'm in a town, I don't want them being honored as a hero.
Right.
It has nothing. It has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the fact that that person's a piece of crap, and I'm not. I don't want my tax dollars and my. I don't want to have a celebration for this person who's a piece of garbage.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, this ties into what Ethan said before, and this is where we have to assume that this is in the post 9/11 era. At that time I was living right outside of. Actually, I was living in Manhattan around 9/11. But then when I moved to North Jersey, there were all these memorials for the people, the towns where they lot people, died. And so, I would have never thought about on that list of names that there's some people that were probably just horrendous people, right?
Right.
You just kind of honor everybody who was the victim of some sort of circumstance there that took them away, right?
Right.
And yes, and in some religions, probably Matt's, it's the age-old question of, is Hitler in heaven or whatever? Because if he asked God to, save his life, before he died, is he saved and gets to go to heaven?
Well, if he's there, I got a good chance of making it.
Well, that's why I'm personally an atheist and think that's like a really shitty thing. If your behavior can just be excused in an instant like that after doing such atrocious behavior. So, to your point, yes, absolutely. I think that it would not be appropriate to recognize horrendous evil people. And I think Matt, on his side, he's really trying to drive that home, because if it's not all bad people that went away, then that makes him possibly not good. You know what I mean? Because he's like, why was I not taken? And so, coming from where he's coming from, he's trying to wrap it up in his religion. That's his box. So everybody's going to have their box on the show, and his is going to be religion, and he can't get out of it because all he thinks is everybody who departed was evil, and he has to hold on to that. He can't let that go, because then his whole faith shatters, and his can't because of his profession and the other stuff we'll get into. But I ultimately think that's Matt's kind of character. I mean, do y'all agree? Or
yeah.
Right now,
yeah.
Okay.
What we know about him for the first episode.
Right.
Yes. I mean, I like how you said, Eckhart, about 9/11. I'm sure not everybody was a perfect person. I'm just saying, in a small town, if I know that person is scum, I mean, it had to be really bad. I mean, like a murderer, a child molester. I'm talking the worst of the worst. There's no way I would want them, like we had the Girl Scouts reading the names of the departed from that small town. I would say, okay, yeah, you can honor them, but I don't want that person's name being read.
I mean, what's interesting about the whole event too is, I mean, the mayor even says it, is that this was basically, they had to do this. This came from the federal government, right?
Right.
So they're already, and there are a few other like breadcrumbs that they sprinkle around to show, and this is where the post 9/11 world parallel comes in, is that the federal government has a much larger role in this society than probably, our society today. So that this whole notion of the Heroes Day, maybe the town doesn't really want it, but they don't have a choice. Federal government says they need to do this.
In that meeting with the mayor and all the other police, they even say, why do we call it Departure Day? and the mayor said something like, "Or what else are we supposed to call it? Whatever the F happened day," you know?
Yeah.
So I think that was probably from the government too, like the actual, coming up with that term.
But do you have? I mean, you see that things have changed. We talked about the kids not standing for that. It's just everything's changed. Do you really think a town would have to say, the federal government says you have to have this parade, you have to have this celebration day? Why? I don't have to have this celebration day.
I think they're doing it for all the people that they lost. I mean, look at Nora.
Yeah.
Like that would be somebody who they want to
Right.
be the guest speaker, who they want.
I'm just saying. I just can't imagine the way things are 3 years later that the government could tell a town they have to do it. Because I just see a lot of people. We're not doing it. We don't care. What are you gonna do to us?
Well,
I don't know.
Again, Jack, without spoiling too much, there are breadcrumbs throughout this season and future seasons that show what the federal government can do.
I'm just saying. I probably wouldn't. Well, okay. Anyway, we do find out that it happened on October 14th, and they do a statue. Now, if you're Nora and you see that statue, is that like the wrong statue for Nora to see?
Yeah, you push it over.
Of course, we don't really know. Well, we know she lost 3 people, right? But is that like the worst statue for Nora to look at?
Okay,
it reminds me of the statue from Rocky 3, quite frankly.
What?
It reminds me of the statue from Rocky 3, quite frankly.
It does look like it, yes.
It's the same reaction. Like Sylvester Stallone is just mortified by this statue in Rocky 3. It's just a weird thing, I guess, to get a statue.
Well, it sets off the whole Mr. T thing, and he starts talking about Adrian. Mr. T starts talking about Adrian, and it just gets anyway.
She'll let a real man show you stuff like this. Terrible. Anyway, no, if I were Nora, I wouldn't want to be there at all. I think it's a terrible statue. I think anybody that lost someone doesn't want to be reminded of it. In fact, they would probably need some kind of living reminder.
Well, what about the mother that lost Sam? Oh my God, that's a terrible statue. Anyway, go ahead, Caleb. I know you had something to say.
No, I was just going to say that I think it's totally inappropriate. And like you said, the woman who lost her baby Sam, and the image of, like the woman and the baby, it gives me like vibes of, giving your baby to the Lord, or sacrificing your, child for the greater good or whatever. And it's so gross.
It's a really religious symbol of it. And which they'll really lean into next week when we see like the opening credit title sequence, which there was.
Right.
I mean, I'm gonna take a slightly different angle, and I'm gonna continue to hammer home these breadcrumbs of the more powerful federal government. You look at the style of that statue; it reminds me of the stuff that you used to see all over the former Warsaw Pact, Eastern Europe, Soviet Union, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if they mention it in this episode who actually decided that they needed to have a statue. Right. Yeah,
to me, I wouldn't have had a statue. I don't know what you maybe just have something that says love or something like that. But to have a mother like this losing her baby, I can't imagine. Number one, losing a child is the hardest thing in the world, and then you're going to be reminded of it.
And for all we know, there might be like, let's say, 5 slightly different versions of the statue that are being unveiled all over the U.S. at that moment. So,
I think this is a real microcosm. I think the same thing is happening everywhere. And so you're getting statues, you're getting Heroes Days, you're getting a Nora Durst in almost every other town. Her case is probably extreme.
One in whatever we.
I wasn't going to say that number like that yet. I was going to 128,000.
That's what I thought about.
Yeah.
Well, we have Nora giving her. She's talking about what she's lost and stuff. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, in the crowd they are holding the dove balloons. That's important.
Yeah, I mean, you could have something like
there you go.
You could have something like that. Someone releasing anything, but the baby being taken from the mother is terrible. Mm-hmm. The GR shows up, Kevin's like, says to Jill, go home. You don't want to see your mom get beat up. They hold up the sign, stop wasting your breath. The townspeople have just said, okay, we've had it with these smokers. They're smoking in public. They're endangering our lives. And then they go after him. So, but you had mentioned the cops I don't think the cops are beating up the GR. They're beating up the citizens they're hitting the citizens trying to keep them from beating up the GR. I don't think the cops had hit the GR.
The citizens are trying to get the GR is trying to get the citizens to beat them up.
Yes, because they just take it. They don't fight back. They just take it. And I did at the end. You see a guy punching one of the GRs, but he's not really punching the GR. It's like he goes like this, and he's like, it's so fake. It's almost like Braveheart, where there's two people like this. Sword fighting in the background, but I did notice that, and it did bug me. I'm just going to throw that.
I thought the juxtaposition of Nora's speech and them holding the signs up saying "Stop wasting your breath." What's amazing about it was, again, I went back and I listened to the original podcast. You guys don't even mention the speech, okay?
Well, who does the recap?
She's not on the map, really, man.
And the irony, of course, is that what she says there, in terms of she would trade anything for the worst day with her kids and husband to have that again.
I got to be honest.
That's a central theme of the entire show.
Right. I got to be honest though. I had never seen her in anything else, so I didn't know. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know she was going to be a major character.
No one did.
Spoiler.
And they didn't. and they didn't know either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the first season, like we said, is based on a book, and then they went from there. So, but I think her speech is important.
I think you're right. I do agree.
She even says, I'm not greedy. I would take one of the bad days. What?
I'll talk about that later.
All right.
What do you mean later? What are we doing?
Let's move on.
We're getting through the recap. What we're doing.
Yeah. Oh, I don't have anything.
We have Kevin's in the bar, and he's actually, and they're showing 3 years later who had departed. The Pope departed. J-Lo departed. Gary Busey departed, but I think he probably departed a long time ago. They're showing all these people that departed, and he's talking to the woman that lost her child.
Yes.
And she's going back and forth. And this is where Kevin Garvey gives his favorite. She goes, well, what were you doing during the he goes, I was cleaning the gutters.
No. No. I was cleaning a gutter.
Gutter, yeah. Okay. A gutter. So
I was in the house cleaning a gutter.
A gutter.
So, and we know he's not cleaning a gutter, he's having sex with somebody.
Forget it.
But it's important because, Jack, we've been using this term wrong all these years because we weren't precise the first time around, and we're all guilty of that.
Yeah, but I'm gonna keep saying he was cleaning the gutters. I'm just gonna say it because it makes it. I'm not changing it. I'm going with what I thought he said, and that's it. And then he sees the guy that shot the dog walking out of the bar. Then he goes to shoot him, and he fumbles the gun. Now, did he fumble the gun because he'd been drinking too much? Because the bartender even asked. He goes, one more, and the guy, and he goes, you sure, Chief? Yeah, one more drink.
This is a picture perfect. This is what you want to see when you see your sheriff. This scene right here, in your local town.
Well, it's a small town.
Chasing guys, dropping guns.
People drink. It's part of the thing.
I think something that's important during that scene is what's happening on the TV.
Very much.
Because there's like these two pundits kind of going back and forth about what happened with the departure. And one lady finally says, I'm trying to have a secular conversation, and you're trying to talk about God's will. Because it sounded like they had like a religious guy on the show, and he was like, it was God's will that the departure happened. And she's like, I'm trying to have like a conversation. And so that just further drives home the fact that the religious aspect is very heavy. It's in play. You have these sects, SECTS, and it's just kind of branching off from there. But I thought that was important.
And we also see in the background, you see Hillary on TV talking at some one point. And you're like, oh, hey, look, you guys made predictions. That's nice.
But then after Kevin does that, he goes looking for Lori. He said, I got to find her. So he goes to the Remnant's house. He beats up some guy. I think he was just asking Lori because he said it's been a while since he's cleaned the gutters. Right? Is that?
I don't think he meant what he meant when he said that. I think he pulled out a reason to lie to that lady. And I think that, I mean, we see somebody literally cleaning out their gutter later.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you said pulled out. I don't know why.
It will always mean.
I think he pulled out a story.
It always means sex to me that when he says, when I hear cleaning the gutters. I'm sorry, I can't help it. That's where my mind goes. But then the guy comes back and beats up. Well, they go back and forth, and Patty's writing the note, "You don't belong here," and then she underlines it. Thanks for underlining it.
Yes, I love that.
But,
I love when she underlines it.
Amy and Justin are pretty amazing here.
Yeah,
and it really got to me this time too. I was like,
well, because Amy's she's not, because Lori, she's not saying anything. It's all visual, and he's all emotional. He's his family's being torn apart. He's lost his son. His daughter is. Needs her mom, and it's and everything else that's going on in the world. It's just a mess. Then he leaves, and then the woman that they were harassing, Meg, shows up, and Patty speaks. And as she's walking away, she goes, "We won't speak again." I said, "Huh?" Because you're like going, why can't she talk? And we don't really know at this point, do we?
Nope. We just know that's what they do, and she probably has to say that to every new person just to be like, here's the deal. Now we're not talking.
Right. Then Kevin calls Tommy again, and of course Tommy doesn't pick up the phone.
Because he's screaming in a pool.
Yes, he's screaming in a pool, which I thought was a very good scene.
Yeah.
And then he stops and talks to a deer, a buck, and he says, "Were you in my kitchen?" And then all of a sudden you hear is it the guy shows up or the dogs show up first?
The dogs run down the deer.
The dogs. Now, how do the dog? I've seen deers run. They're pretty quick.
These are wild dogs that went crazy because they saw their masters.
I get it, but I don't think a deer would be outrun by dogs.
Jax, that's the exact same thing you said in the original.
Oh, really?
Podcast.
I've seen them. They're fast.
Maybe this deer's really depressed, man. Everyone's really depressed. Maybe he's ready for it to be over.
That's true. Well,
that's what I said.
He's not depressed anymore.
The last few minutes are showing that everyone is struggling and dealing with things in their own way and their grief.
Literally deer in the headlights.
And Dog Killer comes up and says, "They're not our dogs. They're not." So he starts shooting them, and Kevin's like, he's like flinching every time. And then finally he joins in. They kill the dogs.
But first he says, "Am I asleep?"
Yeah.
And the guy says, "Not anymore, Chief." And they start shooting the dogs.
And then they kill the dogs, and that's it. That was the pilot episode. I loved it. I thought it was great. Obviously, I think we all agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think people in the chat agree.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Ro, for earlier. I don't know what I said, but she said I had a good point.
I think at that point it was a good point. If I remember correct. If I remember correctly, it was a good point. But at this point, we're gonna get to some spoilers. Caleb, Ethan, you want to take us down that road?
I'm just going all the way to the top, to the very top of the episode. The first thing I got was the mother that we see talking to Sam. You get little bits of conversation. One of them is talking with someone trying to sneak in an appointment. Is that trying to sneak in an appointment with Lori? Because we know in the third season, she's, in the episode Certified, we see Lori as her therapist. Mm-hmm. That crossed my mind. And this is also a very important scene because in the huge Vulture article that came out for the series finale, at this moment, even though they had no plans to say anything, and we still don't know whatever happened at the end. Damon Lindelof said, to Peter Berg, we should grab a shot right now where we just see the baby take everyone else out and just leave the baby there crying, and we'll grab the shot now. But Peter Berg said they didn't have enough time and they didn't do it.
Oh man.
When you hear the Senate committee hearings, it says they're on the Denzinger committee, and later on with the machine, they're looking for low amplitude Denzinger radiation in the third season.
Okay.
When she's about to go in the machine. You guys want me to keep going through these? You guys have
go.
Because I don't remember any of this, but go ahead.
Okay. Lori is upset about not being on the list. Very interesting considering her and Patty's previous relationship. The dynamics in that scene are completely changed when you know that Lori was Patty's therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very weird watching new.
Which
And
makes
also
it,
with the oatmeal as well.
yeah, I was about to say, which makes that scene with the oatmeal even more weirder.
It's totally the scene I'm talking about. Yeah. Stuffed deer. Okay, so did he actually see a deer, or did he see? It looked to me like a stuffed deer. Was that supposed to be a real deer when he went to go give the dog back?
But where was it when he left?
That's what I was about to
gone.
say.
That's
so
what
I'm saying. Did he even see a deer? Is what I'm trying to say.
Well, yeah. Are we talking like? Are we starting to see the first psychotic breaks?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's what I was about to be like. We're all on the same page that he's hallucinating already, right?
Well, like I said, it could be all the alcohol and all the pile of pills he's taking too.
Sure. Okay, so
and we know at this point that his dad, something's happened. Totally. Are you the one who went crazy? Oh, that was my dad. So
it's a family thing, but it's my dad.
Right. Genetic.
So when he's talking to the mayor and he knows that they're a threat, because there is a big long arc in this entire show that Kevin has the exact same worldview as the Guilty Remnant.
Yeah.
So he knows exactly what they're trying to do. That's why he's trying to warn so hard against it, because he thinks the exact same way they do.
And what is that?
What do you mean, what is that?
Well, let's spell it out.
Yeah.
What is their worldview?
I don't know. Patty describes it earlier about how they just want people to remember because the world ended on October 14th. Nothing matters.
That's why they smoke. That's why they don't talk.
Yeah, there's no.
And they do something shittier, even crappier later on in the series.
Yeah,
my bad.
Tons of stuff.
Yes.
Right?
They do something that's really crazy.
In this season.
Way.
Well, we're talking about the real dolls. It's the real dolls, right? Is what we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. So if we're in spoiler territory, we're in spoiler territory. They put out those real dolls. But over the season, we'll see them get the pictures. We'll see them get the clothes. We'll see them get the real dolls. But I just think Kevin knows exactly how dangerous they are because he feels the exact same way they do. He feels the exact same way Patty does on a level. I think that's a theme that we're going to be seeing.
So you're saying that the Guilty Remnant believes that the world just kind of stopped that day and they don't want to go back to the normal. They want people to remember that this insane thing happened and wrap our minds around it. Let's not try to just go back to school and go back to work as if nothing happened.
Right, like the election. Anyway, I wasn't going to say anything.
Or the pandemic.
Sure. Same kind of drum music used in season 2 when Lori is stalking. So when the GR is stalking Lori right before the party, you're hearing this drum beat. And in her episode in season 2, when she starts running over GR, there's lots of jazz drums going on. And I picked up on that. The jazz drums kind of turned into these EDM drums at the party, but it was the same kind of vibe. I'm just going through and seeing the things I highlighted I didn't want to say during the actual show. For Meg, we find out later that her mom died the day before the sudden departure. So that's a lot of her problem there.
Right.
I just remember people making a huge deal about the dogs in the original watches of all these and all the original podcasts. They really.
I know. I did.
Yeah.
Because they quarantined the dogs in season 3, right? We find out the dog when they're in Texas. I thought it was
and that's probably why. That's probably why. I didn't even think about that.
They quarantined for like 60 days or something.
When
that was season 3. Is it season 2?
Season 2, when you're moving into Miracle, Texas, you have to quarantine your dog.
I thought we really see it. Anyway, we'll find out later on. But go ahead.
Okay, so this thing that we came up with in the show is really having me, because I literally watched it after we talked about it. It's really unclear what car he's driving. So this is definitely the first sleepwalking. Because in my mind, and he does it later on with the dog in this season, he obviously got the deer home somehow, and the deer destroyed the house, but he was blacked out. That's how I saw it. But with the thing with the car, I really don't know what the hell's going on, because the car is the last thing you see of the car is them burying the dog.
So it's not the car is not his car.
It's just a different car.
I'm asking you, is it a different car?
They make it real vague, man. They make it really vague.
I know, that's what the whole scene is like. It's up to us to figure out what he's doing.
I bet our good friend Damon Lindelof would say, look, when we rewatched the first season, we were planning the second season. That scene in the pilot really there's something about that. So then we just decided to unspool that thread.
When we get to I'm sorry, I'm going to use a bad word here. When we get to the mayor being a mega bitch all the time, we know the day before the departure, Nora interviewed to work for the mayor's campaign. So she really acts like she doesn't know who she is a bit too much, I think. And
yes, but I'm gonna have to push back on that because that happened right when the departure happened.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Right. So she's not gonna remember her.
She's not gonna remember that she had an interview with her to be her campaign manager the day before.
Probably not. As we just mentioned, it was chaos when that first went down. So why would that stick out in her mind? The mayor probably lost friends too that she's more concerned with, and trying to get the town together.
Well, I think we found out that the mayor actually lost the mayor, and that's why she's the mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think she would remember her, even with an interview. Because.
Well, did she say she didn't remember her?
No, she just acted aloof and bitchy the whole time. The mayor just is aloof and bitchy.
I don't think the mayor's aloof and bitchy, just for the record.
I think she's a politician.
I think she's a politician, but I think there's definitely static because she obviously had a relationship with Kevin Garvey Sr. He went crazy.
Yes.
And
she drove him crazy.
And now she's got to deal with Kevin.
Oh my God.
I'm just joking.
With her shrill voice and her matriarchal ideas.
No.
Yeah, that was a joke, by the way. And in the very last episode of the season, when GR placed loved ones everywhere, we do see a loved one on stairs cleaning out a gutter.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at, is that he probably took, when she asked him, what's he going to say? What's he really going to say? He's not going to tell the stranger what really happened. So he may have heard stories of other people in the town.
I was having lunch.
He departed when he was cleaning the gutter of his house, or this person departed here. He probably just pulled something right out of his drunk mind.
And then if he said we were having lunch, that would be the catchphrase that we'd be using.
Yeah.
If it's going to be 28 hours of Caleb pushing back, I don't know if I can do this.
All right, I got a question. And this is something that
Eckhart predicted that.
Yeah,
so
this is something I honed in on. Do we, and I guess this question is for everyone, but most likely for Ethan. Do we ever figure out how the Guilty Remnant target people for recruitment? Now, we see these dossiers that they give them that seem to have financial information. But is there a common thread of the people that are harassing.
Yeah, I think there is. And I think, it's stuff like in that file, it says Meg's mother died the day before. People that are specifically, especially kind of vulnerable. Like later on, they do start to target Nora because she had more kids missing. Her and she's the assignment for Meg and Lori. I think they definitely look for things.
Well, it's like anything. Groups like that look for people that they can
The most
that are going to be
vulnerable.
most vulnerable. The ones are going to be the easiest targets. I mean, it's just okay.
To
You're not going to go after,
of course.
Yeah, and that's what most cults do is they go after the people that they can.
I got another one for you. What if Patty knew?
I guess the question I had more is what were the actual signs of vulnerability? I mean, you mentioned that with Meg, it was the fact that Meg lost somebody at or around the time of the departure. So it sounds like the main criteria is that they're looking for people who basically lost somebody in the departure.
I think a big thing with Meg is that she put her wedding on hold for so long. That's a big sign right there that she's not been able to move on from something. So if the guilty remnant knew that, then that's all they really need. I think that's the crucial piece there, probably.
And if they know that Meg took a bus trip to Garden, Texas,
yes,
to go visit Miracle National Park.
Good point.
That's probably in there too.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like it. Anything else we guys?
Ethan, I'm going to have to push back on your Lego background because he doesn't have tattoos on his back. So
listen,
wait, no, those are tattoos. There.
Let me just say something about the Lego leftover situations when I did them. It took so long to get that hand above the head.
You made that?
I made
you
all the
Lego
picture. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
All those Lego leftovers that will be on back here sometimes. I made.
Awesome.
And it took way entirely too long. And the very first one I did was of Kevin and Nora from season 3 with the angel wings, right? and
underline it.
I was using a body of a Rancor piece, like food guy from like Empire Strikes or Return of the Jedi, and I got shit on Reddit because it didn't have a Justin Theroux 6-pack, and I had to redo it.
You got to be careful with Reddit. You got to be careful.
Yeah. So.
By the way, in the original podcast, Jack's crackpot theory was that Holy Wayne was funneling money to the GR. That's how the GR could afford everything.
Okay, that didn't come true.
I just feel like this rewatch is also a good opportunity to.
Well, you look at it. Where are they getting their money from?
They're the GR.
Yeah.
They're getting their money.
All the people that join.
Well, we do find out, later on. But at first, I'm like going. They got 3 houses. They're pretty nice houses. They can eat. They're eating oatmeal every day, and they get plenty of. And they have cigarettes, and we know cigarettes aren't cheap.
And they got to buy all those loved ones.
Do you think that the majority of the people in the guilty remnant lost someone on departure day?
Yeah.
You think the majority did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think in a small town, at least you know somebody that departed.
Right, but like random guy, random woman in the guilty remnant, you think that the majority of the people that we know to be in that cult, you think they lost someone on departure day?
I would think so, yeah.
I think there's a fair amount that might not be,
Sure, but my point was that if they lost somebody, they're probably getting money from the DSD or whatever. And so that's where probably some money comes from.
But they're also targeting people that are, fairly, doing okay anyway.
But to be fair to me, this was the first episode, and I just had to take a chance because you see Wayne getting this big, it's a big thing of money, and it's anyway.
Well, no, Rose has lots of white clothes. I noticed when they were looking at the dossiers, Rose, that every single person is wearing some different all white getup.
Yeah, some had stains on it.
Some had stains. Some were
Where's the
scrubs,
bleach?
some were white with.
You just
that.
have to wear white. It's not uniformed. It wasn't, like a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So you have this big event that happens, and you have people who, kind of what we're probably going to see with the pandemic. Honestly, you're going to have a lot of people who rush out and do things to try to like live life to the fullest, which is why you have kind of the teenager side that was just great for us to see. You see the younger adults kind of, Jill's, kicking people and all this and doing drugs or whatever. They're kind of lashing out and doing whatever. And then you have adults doing the same thing. But I think that there's also the people like the guilty remnant who go about it as, I don't want to say numb, because I don't think that's the right word, but it's more like bland, all white, oatmeal, sleeping on cots, and obviously they have enough money to do whatever. So I feel like they kind of stripped away all the, if you've seen Six Feet Under, the static, they've kind of stripped away all the possessions, all the materialism, and they're trying to focus on what really truly matters and make people remember. And I think that's where they're coming from.
And they're using the biggest Jewish death ritual there is, which is covering up the windows or the mirrors so you don't see yourself. Which Jewish people do in a time of mourning.
Okay.
I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
You guys come from the South. You should get out more.
Hold on. Whoa.
Okay.
I do not come from the South. I just live here.
Okay.
Yeah, I live here and don't want to. And I've had enough religion thrown my way. Yeah.
Anyway, on that note, I think this was a great first episode. We'll be back next Sunday, same time. That work for everybody?
Same. Leftover
for the second episode of the series of the Leftovers. But that's all I got. Anything else, guys?
Nope. Thank you.
And thanks for everyone who joined us in the chat row. Thanks for all your contributing and everyone else. That was a lot of fun.
Max Richter is amazing for the music, by the way. The score is great. I don't think we ever mentioned that, but yeah, it gets better as it goes along.
We really haven't gotten there yet, and we're going to get there soon.
Yeah. Well, with the end and Jill, which we didn't talk about, is her picking the pieces of glass, sitting on the steps. And then that's the big reveal that her mom is in the guilty remnant and all that, and why she's so messed up too. And if you think about it, we're automatically set up to hate Lori. We're like, why would she leave her family? Why would she join a cult? Why? And then obviously we find out, and it makes perfect sense why she just kind of lost it there for a minute, even with the profession that she was in. But I think that that's a great scene. It's symbolic. The family is shattered, literally. And you get to understand why they're kind of, and also Kevin keeps saying, Tommy, he even says daddy, which is really all. Hey, Tommy, this is Daddy, just calling. And, obviously we know in Tom's scene, he's being called Tom. So there's some kind of disconnect that Tommy is wanting to be away from the family, away from college.
That's also hurting Jill also.
Yeah.
No one's having fun. Come back next week.
No one's having fun.
and when they're having even less fun next week. That's all we got.
Sorry. The next three are real kind of a trudge, but we're going to do it.
We're going to push through it. But we'll be back next week. Tell your friends. Bye, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in.